Technical glitches, but we are back, folks. Another live episode of Bluegrass Soccercast, your home for all things soccer, right here in the beautiful state of Kentucky. I'm your host, Jimmy. That's Mr. Jon. Jon, how are you today?
I'm good, Jimmy. How are you?
I'm good. We have another fantastic show for you. We got a lot of things to cover. So, Jon, let's jump right into it by going off the top. And Jon, for this week, first thing I want to talk about is a little bit of old news at this point, but because of our break, we didn't really get a chance to dive into it. And that was LouCity's Josh Winder's record-breaking transfer to Benfica. So going from LouCity to SL Benfica earlier was that in June, right? When that deal went down, right?
Yeah, it was finalized like early June. Technically speaking, it actually happened like 2 weeks ago because of the July 1st deadline and all that type of stuff.
New transfer window opening up and so forth. But the star defensive player gets to join the Portuguese side, Benfica, which is one of the most successful clubs in Portugal. In fact, I don't know if I could name another Portuguese club. Can you name another one, Jon?
So Benfica is part of the big three, which is Porto and Sporting Lisbon.
I did remember Sporting Lisbon. So I did lie.
They're the other two. But really, he's going to one of the big three clubs of Portugal. He's not going to some random club. Like those three clubs are the only ones that come out of Portugal that compete in Europe. Really, it's kind of like Scotland type thing of Celtic Rangers. There's really only those three type things. I would have to look into it, but they've probably won the league. Those three clubs have probably won the league the past 30 or 40 years.
Gotcha. So, kind of, what are your thoughts on this record-breaking USL transfer?
I think it's good for multiple reasons. For Winder, for LouCity, for USL in general. For Winder, it's great because he's going to Europe at the prime age to go to Europe at 18. This could lead to him playing more minutes with the senior men's national team as he develops. He's going to a club that produces talent, that produces young talent too. They've produced the likes of Juan Opek, Ruben Diaz, Juan Cancelo, Bernardo Silva, Angel Di Maria, who was just up on our screen. He's come from there. And Julian Alvarez, I'm pretty sure, came through that ranks after leaving River Plate. Yeah, River Plate. And I'm 90% sure he's the one that won the young player of the tournament of the World Cup. So
I do remember that.
Yeah, he's going to a place that develops talent and sells it off. Which, if he gets sold off before the end of 2025, and they haven't paid up their extra bit amount, Lou will get 20% of that sale.
Right, which would be fantastic for LouCity to get even more off of this one transaction.
Yeah, at the minimum right now, the transfer fee was 1.2 million was the transfer. Lou can get up to at a minimum of another $500,000.
Wow!
If Benfica has until the end of 2025 to pay that. So if they haven't paid that by the end of 2025, any transfer, anytime if Wilder leaves Benfica, Lou gets 20% of that cut.
And you brought up a really good point a few minutes ago talking about his role with our national team, right? So he was a part of the U20 that made a deep run in the U20 World Cup quarterfinals, semifinals. I can't remember off the top of my head, but something like they made a good run.
I think it was the quarter.
Yeah, which, I mean, for America in the World Cup, hey, I'll take it, right?
Hey, we've placed third before.
We have, but it's been a while, right?
100 years.
Yeah, that's multiple generations at this point. None of those people are still around to say like, yeah, go Team USA. Anyways, he did play a critical role on that team. He started for them at that point, so my biggest hope is to continue to see him develop over the next several years. And I honestly think he has an outside chance of making the 26 World Cup roster. He may not play much, but I think he could be a good replacement for someone like DeAndre Yedlin, who's getting a little bit older, who probably shouldn't even be on our B team or C team at this point, coming in on the defensive side.
I honestly think he's got more than an outside chance because the two A-team starters you could argue that are in front of him are Tim Ream and Walker Zimmerman, who are both older.
Yeah.
So I think depending on how those two are playing, he could make the roster. I don't know about playing time, that's all
Yeah.
thing. But in terms of a center back duo, you have Anthony Robinson, and there's others out there, but I feel like Winder, depending on how he develops at Benfica and how Ream and Zimmerman age, has a chance at making that cut.
Absolutely. A small kind of thing to add to Winder's transition here. He will start with Benfica B, and then we'll work towards getting to the A team and stuff like that. So it could be one thing where he's with Benfica B midweek and then is on the A roster on the weekend or something like that. So don't expect him to be, if you buy I don't even know who has the Portuguese rights in America. I'm going to guess Paramount, but it could be ESPN.
I'll be all honest. I've never actively watched it's called the Primera Liga. I've never actively watched league games of that. I swear every time I watch Portuguese clubs, it's in European competition.
Yeah.
I don't watch their league.
Yeah, I can honestly say I haven't watched it either. But so hopefully maybe ESPN, Paramount, can pick it up just to have more content on one of their platforms. And I swear to God, if that means I have to get another streaming service, oh gosh.
Yeah, but him being on B makes sense. It's got to be remembered that Benfica are the defending league champs.
Indeed.
They made the quarterfinal of the Champions League. They made the quarterfinal of the Portugal's version of the FA Cup, the Taça de Portugal, and the group stage of the Leagues Cup. You could argue, I think, in Portugal, when you're those top teams, all they care about is the Champions League because their other competitions don't really matter in a sense to the rest of Europe. Like the FA
Right.
Cup is like a big deal and stuff. But he's going to the top dog of Portugal right now, who is in Portugal's the 7th best league by UEFA coefficients.
Where does the MLS rank on that list, just out of comparison?
UEFA coefficients, I'm not sure. Let me look into W Nations.
Because I believe on FIFA, it's they're up to 8th, 9th, something like that, right?
I've seen rankings with MLS as low as 15th, like below the
Ooh.
championship, but I've seen as high as 8th. I've seen as high as 10th or 8th, but let me look at that up.
While John's looking that up, I do just want to say, like, again, for Louisville and for players in that city, this is a direct showing of how you can come to a team, an academy like LouCity Academy. You can get into the USL champion team, and then you can really have a great opportunity to start moving on either into Europe or into other clubs. Did you find it, John?
Yeah, this global football rankings has the MLS at 16. But that's like
Wow.
We're Liga MX is 9th.
Oof.
So
Well, that's interesting.
MLS has a 40.86 on this. Liga MX has a 47.14. The Premier League has a 71.96. So if you want to
that's a difference.
Like Liga MX and MLS are real close versus like Premier League and all that stuff. Like bottom 5, like League One is at 61. So it's like
Right.
it's a bigger gap type thing. Like these leagues are really close. I think that all changes and stuff. I don't like comparing leagues that don't play each other
Yeah.
because it's
Well,
just
the
not fair.
MLS and Liga MX are about to start playing in the
Yeah,
Leagues Cup
yeah, that's a
later this week.
fair. Yeah, that's a fair comparison. That stuff is fair because we play each other. Comparing the MLS to like the Bundesliga, where the only chance in a like legit competition that an MLS club has a chance to play a Bundesliga club is in the Club World Cup, which you could even question if that's a legit competition in itself. That
Yeah.
depending on what clubs do. So I it it's just my thing. I don't like comparing leagues that don't actively compete against each other in the sense of like a Champions League, a Leagues Cup, where they're actively competing against each other. It's hard for me to judge them. There's a clear quality. Yes, there's clear quality that the Premier League is the most quality league, but in terms of judging a whole league is hard for me.
Absolutely. And again, this is a great thing for Josh. This is a great thing for his family. It's a great thing for Louisville. It's a great thing for Kentucky because now we have proof that this state can produce top quality soccer talent, and I just really hope the best for Josh over there. In maybe they'll come back and they'll play LouCity in a friendly next year or something like that. But John, I'll let you close out the segment with final thoughts on this one.
Um, yeah, it's great for both the league and for LouCity. What LouCity need to do though, and we can touch on this a little bit later. They need to capitalize on it. They need to
Yes,
capitalize on this transfer. They're getting at least 1.8 or 1.7 million dollars. They need to do something with that. I'm not going to act like they need to spend all that on players, but you have to do something where you don't let that just go to waste.
I have a crazy idea. And this is based on another story that we'll talk about here in a little bit. But a player like a Rafa Pizarro, who just got released from Inter Miami, would be a potentially great attacking addition to LouCity. Plus, he was also one of my favorite players on the team, so I would also love to see that as well. But I think you're right. I do think LouCity needs to add more talent to their roster with this money that they will get that they have now that they'll spend in the off season.
Yes. They need
Who do
to
you go for? It?
I in terms of picking up players, I have no idea because the USL championship is so weird. Because there's I think I saw this somewhere. Is there a Nottingham Forest player joining a set team?
I believe I saw that. Yes.
Yeah. So you have like a Premier League player play on a Premier League side. I don't know. Like I follow Forest, but the guy's name was not familiar to me.
So it's probably a bench player.
Yeah, but still joining our second league, while others argue why certain players are even in our league,
Mm-hmm.
type thing, or like they're in here. So it's hard for me to judge that stuff because I don't know. Like I said with the league rankings, I don't know what type of player is doable. Is a former MLS starter really going to come down a league in America?
Yeah.
Or is it more MLS bench players or who it can be a championship star? Like I don't know how to judge that.
Yeah, and that would be really difficult. Um, you know, after watching like Wrexham and stuff like that, I wonder if any of those guys could come over and play for LouCity. But again, like you said, it's really hard to compare those kind of talents, right? I would imagine, someone like Ollie Palmer or Paul Mullen or something like that could come over and would be relatively successful. But for some like their bench players, yeah, I don't know what they would do.
And Paul Mullen could technically be like I believe in the show they talk about how he was a League One caliber player
Mm-hmm.
and he came down. And
Yep.
people say, well, that's because they spent money. Well, that's literally what
It's what you have to
any
do to
soccer
win.
club that wants to win, truly wants to win, that's what you have to do. It sucks, but that's the way it is. Some teams are
Yep.
able to do like Moneyball, like kind of Brentford's doing, but that has yet. That's all Moneyball has done for Brentford is got them into the Prem and kept them in the Prem. It's not gotten them European competition. It's not won them any top flight trophies yet.
But you could argue that's good enough for someone like that, right? Like that's not a Manchester United, City, Chelsea, whatever. Yeah, but for someone like them, that could be good enough. Just
But is that?
staying in the Prem, getting that money.
But as we established, that is not good enough for LouCity fans. LouCity fans
Facts.
have a demand for more.
Blue City
There are
fans want those
people
trophies.
going crazy while they're still in the middle of the playoff bubble. They're not like
I love
at that
stirring it
bottom.
up, man.
They're not at that bottom. They're in the middle. In which I get, but it's like
Yeah.
it gives me the vibe of Lakers fans or Alabama fans when they're freaking out because Lakers fans have kind of been kind of bad, but like Alabama fans, if they lose 2 games, they're like freaking out and they need
If
to
they lose
fire their
one game, they're
coordinator.
freaking out.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's okay to have an off year.
Yeah.
It genuinely is. And in soccer, it happens more often than not.
Yeah.
Just look at Liverpool. Liverpool last year was considered one of the best talks were about the best Premier League team of all time. And then they fumbled everything. And then they really fumbled everything this season.
Yeah.
So,
and we'll talk a little bit more about LouCity here in a second when we talk about their most recent results. But I think you're onto something with that there with that. But John, let's move on to our second story of the day. Racing Louisville star midfielder Savannah DeMillo was selected to the U.S. women's national team roster for the World Cup this summer down in Australia and New Zealand, down under. Sorry, that was really bad. This is a historic selection that makes DeMillo the first player from Racing Louisville to make a World Cup roster. She's only 25 years old, but she's got a lot of experience with Racing Louisville this season. She's got 8 goals and 3 assists so far in all of their competitions. So, John, to me, kind of what are your thoughts on what this selection means for Racing Louisville?
I think for Racing Louisville, it's a big deal. It's always a major deal to have a player on a national team, specifically a top national team like the U.S. women's are. I think there's different cases depending on how the national team is. I'm not trying to dog on the reggae boys here, but like Amal Knight, Lexington goalkeeper, has had 11 caps for Jamaica. Granted, he has not been their starting keeper, but he's made that squad, and I think that he did a little bit in the Gold Cup, so he hasn't like played World Cup type
Not this
thing.
past
Not this
Gold
past. It
Cup.
was
Yeah.
like 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
It was when he did. But in any sense, it's players will make national team, senior team rosters for random reasons. Making the World Cup roster of a top dog, especially one that's favored, is a big deal no matter what.
Yep.
Yep. If LouCity has some Brazilian player that made that squad, that's a big deal. Like, these are all big deals when you're playing for specifically a team that's been in the past 3 finals of the World Cup, who's arguably it's a failure if they don't make the final. You could argue. So this is a big deal for Racing and DeMello.
I don't know if putting that much pressure on them is necessary. I don't think not getting to a final would be a failure. Not reaching the semifinals, absolute failure. Sorry for shaking my computer there. But I don't know if that much level of pressure needs to be put on this team because there are a lot of younger players. There's some new faces that are in this roster, which you need to, right? Like the last 2 previous World Cups were basically the same roster.
14 players have not played in a World Cup.
Yeah. So they've got to grow into it like Savannah, her inclusion in this roster is important to note because this is only the third time in U.S. history that a woman has made the World Cup roster without previously earning a cap. So
Yes. And
clearly
she
they've
got
go for it.
you go and she earned her
Oh,
first cap against Wales.
she
So
did.
post the
So
announcement.
right, but post roster announcement, and I think it'll be really interesting to see what is her role on the team. Does she get many minutes in games, or is she only there for practice? More or less. Um, Obviously, if injuries happen to other midfielders, she's definitely going to be stepping in. So I just really hope that she stays healthy, and who knows, maybe we go down to penalties in the semifinals and she scores one. If that happens, I want a vegan cookie. Just throwing it out there. If I make that happen, I want that.
Um,
Clip that.
yeah, it would be awesome to see her play. Personally, if you're a racing fan that loves her, I wouldn't fully get your hopes up. She is buried in a very experienced midfield. Julie
Mm-hmm.
Ertz, Andy Sutherland, Lindsey Horan. Like, she could get some minutes. A lot of the analysis of the roster, I'm saying, looks at her as an emergency option, maybe some
Yep.
minutes in a blowout type thing. But injuries can happen. Anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
There could be a matchup that the coach sees. But
Yeah, maybe they want to bring her speed in to kind of alleviate some of the, I don't want to say older because that sounds very pedantic, but some of the more experienced players, give them a little bit of a break, let her kind of do her thing out there in the midfield.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for her to earn playing time, but anybody can earn time.
Yep.
And DeMello can work for it. She's worked her way onto this roster, which means she belongs in the coach's eye. It could be a locker room pick, it could be anything, but she belongs on that roster for a reason.
Yep. She is recognized as one of the best in the country. And, I think this is another great example of what soccer in Louisville is doing for this state, right? So now, not only do you have Josh Winder doing great things, going to play for a foreign club, but now you've got, she's not from Kentucky, but you've got a Kentucky based player going to play on the world stage for our country. I think that's just phenomenal. The Women's World Cup kicks off on the 21st for Team USA as they take on not Venezuela, sorry, Vietnam. See, I'm telling you, I'm dyslexic, man. We will have way more breakdown of Team USA on our Wednesday show, so make sure you come back to get a full breakdown of what to expect from Team USA, from all the other, because there were 8 other Racing Louisville players that are playing for different national teams. Is that right?
There's
Something like
6
that.
total.
6.
US, and they all play for different teams. It's
Yep.
USA, China, Nigeria, South Africa, Brazil. I think we have a European. No, I don't remember the other one.
I remember looking at the graphic, but I remember counting the number, and I didn't look at the rest.
Oh, Australia.
That's it.
Australia is the other one.
I mean, that's kind of European. Anyways, before we get canceled, come back on Wednesday for more full breakdown of what to expect for the Women's World Cup. John, let's move on to our third topic here. Murray State has extended their contract for their head coach, Matt Lodge, who was a previous interview guest here on the Bluegrass Soccer Cast. He received an extended contract through the 2025 season. Lodge has led the team to 49 victories, both in the Ohio Valley and in the Missouri Valley, their new conference, including regular season conference championships. All of those were in the OVC, and almost an MVC championship this past year, when unfortunately they fell. I think it was in the 86th minute in the championship game of that conference. And they were like the 8th seed. Like, they barely made the tournament, and they went on a heck of a run. It was a great thing to watch. Coach Lodge has also led the Racers to the NCAA tournament. No wins in the NCAA tournament yet, but hey, it's Murray. We'll get there. Under his guidance, the team has kept a really strong or has had a really strong debut in the Missouri Valley, and they're actually one of the higher favorited teams to be very competitive again this year. John, kind of what are your thoughts on Murray State extending Matt Lodge's contract?
Uh, in most in most cases of the college coaches, if you find a good one, you need to keep them. There's consistency and culture that you need there, and that is truly what players are going to pick for. Now, being a pro rel advocate, college soccer is not technically good for the American soccer scene because it's kind of taking away because if you're a top talent at 18, you should be playing on a club. You shouldn't be going to college. That being said, the American system is go to college. That's just
Right.
how it is. That's how people are taught, type thing. And like you said, Murray State's not a powerhouse, so he's getting the kids
Yep.
who probably have a lot of hard work and dedication, but might not have all the talent, or they could have all the talent and just been overlooked.
Right.
There could be a Messi out there in Brazil who just didn't have enough money to play, type thing.
So you're basically describing the John Morant story, but just in soccer.
You could, yeah, that could exist. John Morant I believe he got found out by the Murray State head coach because he went to get like a bag of chips or something, and he walked
More or
past
less.
the court he was like playing on or whatever. I was like, oh, this kid's good.
So he was there to scout Zion Williamson. I don't know why he was trying to get Zion. We had no shot at getting Zion, but he saw Jaw, who was a former teammate of Zion's, on a side court just shooting by himself. Like he wasn't playing a game. He was just trying to make himself better. Went over, introduced himself, and the rest has been history. Hoping the best for John Morant, and hopefully that he learns his lesson from his suspension that he'll be facing this year. But that's for a totally different podcast.
But yeah, it's
Yeah,
good. They're keeping someone in house who's led them to victories, who's made them competitive, type thing. It can only go up from here. They didn't extend him too long,
right.
which is what I agree with. You do not want to be, as in most people in this state last year for Calipari. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be. I never believe in locking in a coach to a lifetime or 10-year
Yep.
deal. Like that's just too risky. Take it every college people take them every 4 years. See how they
Yep.
do for every class they bring in, essentially.
Well, and he's been at Murray for 10 years, both as an assistant and as the head coach. So he's had a good longevity there, a lot of success. So yeah, I'm really excited. I hope to make it out to a game this year to see Coach and to cover it for the channel. So if you want to see more about Coach, like I said, we do have a previous interview with him on the channel, as well as keep your eye out this fall. But John, before we move on to our final topic, I want to pull back to something you talked about, which was, is college bad for a pro rel system? And I'm going to disagree with you on that. I think it could be a good thing because then it gives people more of an option, right? Like if you choose to go to college, you then get the opportunity to get your degree, right? And if that is important to you, then you still have that pathway, as opposed to only having to go professionally and then trying to figure out how to get a degree later, right? So I think there is some value still in going to college, but it depends on what you want the rest of your life. If you want to just chase your dream, go for it, man. Go play for LouCity Academy. Go play for Lexington Sporting Club. Go play for whoever, right? But if you want to go get that degree, go to an NKU for men's soccer. Go to a UK for soccer. If you're a girl, go to Murray, go to Western, go wherever, right?
Yeah, but you can still. There's plenty of cases of professional footballers going like while they're playing, getting their degree and stuff. So
Absolutely.
my only thing is it can hinder development if you're truly, and this is like, I'm talking like top
Mm-hmm.
3% of players type thing. This is not for a majority of players, high school, club, travel, whatever, if you have the ability to play college soccer and you genuinely are not getting any sort of, even if you're in an academy like Lex, like Lou, and you personally aren't seeing that path upwards, do it. Go to
Right.
college because that can help expose you. There's plenty of players currently that are professional in the US that played in college.
Mm-hmm. A lot of coaches.
Yeah, a lot of coaches, but if you're truly that top 3%, you you want to chase it, you're gonna have more luck in the sense of the Josh Winder path of grinding and staying and playing professionally when you're young and developing at against it. My main thing is it's one thing to dominate people of your age. It's another thing to dominate pros who are
Right. Older than you.
29, 30, who have been
Mm-hmm.
professionals, who have been doing it and grinding in and out each year.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's where, some of those amateur leagues, right? So there are specific amateur leagues for college players in the summer, to get you that continual training, to get you continual action, from you do your fall season with your college, you do a short spring season with your college, and then you go play for one of those clubs and you get a more robust experience. I don't name those leagues anymore because they're amateurs and we only talk about semi-professional teams on this channel. But John, we'll wrap that part up and we will head to our final story of today. And I am so excited. We're going to step a little bit outside of the Commonwealth. Well, a lot outside of the Commonwealth because we're heading down to Miami where the Messiah, the King, Lionel Messi has arrived, folks. Inter Miami officially last night introduced Lionel Messi as a member of the squad.
Don't you
And
forget Busquets,
Busquets, yes, of course, but
the
Messi.
man who was literally like, it was like this huge show. And they're like, oh, yeah. And this guy who's also won Champions Leagues, World Cup, Euros, who
Yep,
played in arguably the best midfield ever.
yep. And he was just brought out as a hey,
He was
there's
just
also
kind
this
of
guy.
like, yeah. I'm sorry. Like, I love Messi coming to America and stuff, but I'm Busquets. I'm just a little hurt by that because, like, he's a top caliber player.
Well, Miami has done this before, not Inter Miami, but when the Miami Heat brought on LeBron James and Chris Bosh to add to D Wade, right? Like LeBron was the guy. Like that was who everybody wanted. That was the number one target, right? So when you think about it, Bosch was more of that Busquets. And not because their name both start with B, but because of the way that they are coming into this. Messi is the person that everybody wants to see. Ticket sales are through the roof. If you've even thought about seeing an Inter Miami game, either in Cincinnati or St. Louis or Nashville, you better open up that wallet because it is not cheap anymore.
This last game against St. Louis, prices were absurd, and he wasn't even playing.
He
He
didn't even play.
at, there's that famous meme like right after it was announced from a Union game where the guy like has some sign, which apparently people have found out like he works for the Philadelphia Union, so that was planted.
Okay.
I think I saw that somewhere. Don't that you can fact check me on that if that's 100. But he's holding a sign that's like traveled so many miles. It's like thousands of miles to see the goat. And like
He's not even there.
I had a semi-viral like subtweet today. It was like traveled thousands of miles, but could not Google when is Messi's debut for Inter Miami
Well
because it
done,
was in
John.
June
Well
too. So
done.
anyone who knows soccer knows that
Knew that he
like
wasn't coming.
you can't. The earliest would have been June 2nd, like the earliest
Yeah.
possible day would have been June 2nd, based on like just FIFA transfer rules.
But so let's kind of break it down a little bit and let's kind of talk about what does this mean, right? Like, yes, it's exciting for myself, the Southern Legion, and everyone else who supports them, right? Um, but when you're looking at it from a surface level, right? Popularity of the team way up. They went from I think 900,000 followers on social media all the way up to the ninth most popular franchise in the globe, right? So instantly they're way more popular, way more eyeballs on it. With that also comes increasing revenue from ticket sales, from jerseys that were just released last night, which, by the way, those jerseys are way too expensive. There are three of them that I found on the Inter Miami website. There's 120, 149, and 160, or something like that. And I just don't understand how it can be that expensive. Anyways, I'm getting to be an old man. Um, so you've got so much more attention. You've got more cash coming into the club. What is the club going to do with that? Obviously, Busquets, big ad, right? Like another great player to add to the roster. But what else is that money going to buy them?
I don't know, because I don't know how much of that money is going directly to the club and how much is going to Messi. Because
All of it's to him because they
I'm
can't pay
pretty
him.
that Adidas is paying for him through a portion of shirt, like directly paying him through shirt sales. I don't know if that's all MLS kit sales.
Yes.
Is it
All
all?
MLS Adidas jersey sales. So if you buy a Cincinnati FC jersey, thank you. That money is going to Lionel Messi.
No, he's getting a cut from the Apple deal.
Yep. If you watch that St. Louis City game, thank you. Messi is getting paid.
What they need to do, the league wise, all the money they get from this, they need to distribute that to help finish off teams' stadiums, because that's a big thing of um, some marketing. I'm forgetting the
Yeah.
full term for it. Something United marketing, soccer United marketing. That's what it is.
Sure.
Their full thing when they brought in Dan Garber was every team needs to have their own soccer specific stadium. So they need to get on that, and they just need to invest it in these weird allocation money distributions they do to make the rest of the league more competitive. Because you don't want to have happen what happened with David Beckham. It's
Yep.
huge for
There
LA
you go.
Galaxy, but
You're
the
reading my
rest of the
notes.
league did not benefit from it. And
Agreed.
American soccer didn't benefit from it as a whole. Now,
Yeah.
the catalyst with Messi is coming at a perfect time for American soccer, because
Yes.
he came after we got the Copa America, after
Yep.
we got the Club World Cup, after we got the Men's World Cup, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get the Women's World Cup in 2027. So we literally have
Nashville would actually get it then. Let's go.
hopefully, we literally have 5 straight years
Wow, you just
of
shot me down so hard.
well, the so men's World Cup cities are kind of stupid. There's like not like can't it's like
Can't.
Atlanta is the most east until Kansas City, or most
Yeah.
west until like Kansas City. They literally went, nah, St. Louis, Nashville, Chicago. Well, Chicago pulled itself out. Detroit, Milwaukee,
Yeah.
Minnesota, all these Midwest just nope.
Indianapolis.
Yeah, all these ones that have major big stadiums that have hosted major soccer events, just nah.
Get out. Well, and I think part of Nashville not getting it right in 26 at least was because of the stadium situation. Like Nissan Stadium, great, love it. Love seeing concerts there, love seeing American football games there, but it isn't a perfect fit for soccer, and it definitely would not look great on the World Cup stage. But
True.
by 27, they will have their brand new stadium, covered indoor stadium. I think they have a great chance.
Yes, and they should. But anyway, it's all this stuff is coming to the American sports scene. Hopefully, Rel with USL. All
Yep.
this stuff is in place for truly at least American soccer to go from, I believe it's 4th right now in terms of if you do most watched, which if people try to get you, if people ever argue against you with soccer statistics and watched, because they'll try to pull up an individual league, don't let them.
Yeah.
this thing is, as a whole, soccer is the fourth most watched in America, not the Prem, not the La Liga, the whole thing.
Not the MLS.
Yeah, it's all the fourth, and they're really close to baseball now. Baseball is also
Yep.
seeing a uptick in attendance and
They
stuff
are,
in
and
that
it's kind of
respect.
weird, right?
Well, it's the pitch clock. Is it the pitch? Listen, that's something I've been arguing for years. Is that I like I said, I grew up watching baseball. I hated Nomar Garcia Parra, not because he was good on the Red Sox, but because the man literally adjusted his batting gloves 20 times if he never even swung the bat. Pitch comes in, steps out, and I'm just like, why? What did you do? You stood there. Exactly. It just annoyed me. It annoyed me in all sec, and it annoyed time
Jesus.
wasting in general. I hate. I
Yellow card
feel
on that.
I feel keepers, especially if they take a ball and then they just drop to the ground and they
Oh
don't
yeah.
come instantly back up, that's just a card. I'm sorry. That
Yep.
is the most obvious time wasting you can do. And I get it. There's some things to it, but that's straight up time wasting. I hate
There,
time wasting in general,
there
even
was
if
one
I
game
have the
this weekend
team.
that the keeper kept doing that. Was that the Lexington game?
He was doing it towards the end and it was
Yeah.
annoying me, but I was also annoyed about the whole thing, and we can get into that later.
Oh, we
Um,
will.
But time wasting in general, I hate.
Right.
It's just irks me. I don't care if we have a 5-0 lead. Stop time wasting. Just play. Literally
Just
just
go.
play.
Yep.
It's the I'm not the hugest on like sportsmanship stuff, like in the terms of like, well, you gotta respect the guy, don't show him up. That type of stuff I don't care about. But there is a
Oh, well, I know a
sportsmanship.
coach you need to talk to then. Oh goodness. Maybe our interview for tomorrow. Whoa, teaser. Hey.
Um, but there is a that type of stuff is blatant disrespect to like
Yep.
what's his face doing during the Panama US shootout, getting in that guy's face. Like there's just certain stuff
Yeah.
you just don't do. Like I'm sorry, just it's just stupid. It's not it literally shows that you're it I can't think of a proper family friendly term. So I'm just gonna keep going.
You're just time wasting. That's
Yeah.
all it is. You're
I,
just wasting time.
yeah.
But John, let's pull it back to the GOAT here, right? How do you think Messi will adapt to playing in the MLS? So especially looking at the roster that Inter Miami has currently, this is by far the worst roster he's ever played with. Like not even close, right? So, how do you think he will adapt to the physicality of the league or lack thereof at times? And how do you think he'll react to what is literally a very vulnerable to poor back line?
I honestly have no idea. Because I can see every single club going out now. It's like, okay, Messi's here. So what?
Right,
Like, I'm sorry, he's joining a team literally at the age of 36. He's walking on as probably the best player at age 36.
right,
You could argue Joseph Martinez, who's seen a regression in his form, is their 1-2, and Busquets is there. But a 36-year-old Lionel Messi should not be walking onto a team and instantly be the best player by a wide margin
right,
in the sense. Like that, and that's why they're bottom of the league. It's because they don't have any good players. His World Cup run, yes, he played great, but Argentina as a whole was an amazing unit.
right.
As
That's
a
why they
whole.
won. Not
That's
because
why
of
they
what
won.
he did necessarily. Yes, he was the cherry on top, right? Like he was the one who could
He was
finish, but
he was the captain. There is something to be said about having a great captain
yep,
and leadership type stuff. Plus, all those young players like Julian Alvarez grew up watching Messi, and they were like dedicated to get that man the World Cup.
yep.
I don't know if that exists. I'm curious if Messi stays after this year and they don't make it. Like, does he?
Oof, wow.
Because he's never lost. He's never
Yeah.
been. like truly on a terrible team. He's been in like third place in La Liga. He's bounced out of the group stages of Champions League and stuff, but he's never been on a team that's so bad they don't qualify for anything.
Yeah. And I truly think the MLS is going to do everything they can to get Messi to the playoffs. I don't know how they're going to do that because looking at the table, they've got 12 league matches left. So they have a possible max of 36 points left to earn, right? I think they're going to need every single one of those to catch up and then surpass anybody in the playoffs. Like they are that
Line,
far behind.
they got to make at least ninth. DC
Yeah.
United is 30 has 30 points. They have 18. So they have 12
Yeah.
points with 12 games remaining. So that
Yeah.
means at a minimum
They got to draw every game.
they need to draw every game and all the teams above them to not get any points. That's
Which is not realistic.
that's
We
not
can't
realistic at
expect that as
all.
fans. No.
So 12 games. So if they get 6 wins out of those 12,
Yeah.
that's 18 points. That could bring them close enough. Now that's all dependent on other teams.
Right. And Wayne
But
Rooney's got that DC team looking pretty good right now. So I don't know.
But they need to win at least half of their games for it to be within conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know who they're all facing and type of stuff, but they need to win at least half.
Well, that was going to be my next point. There was like looking at who they are facing. They do play several potential playoff opponents and playoff bound teams. So I don't know if it's even realistic to think that even Messi can be enough to score and to get them over the hump. I truly don't. Now, their keeper had also been getting some potential transfer looks from some European clubs. So if he leaves, there's definitely no chance then at that point.
And that with him leaving, if he does leave, I don't see him at all. I'm
Yeah.
curious to see if USF or whoever runs the reffing of the Open Cup,
Yeah. I
what they
think
do with
they'll win
that.
the Open Cup. I truly do.
I can see Messi dedicating to himself, but I don't think FC Cincinnati is going to let them walk
No,
over,
they're
especially
not
because
going
they
to let
have
that
a
happen.
chance. FC Cincinnati has a chance for the second ever treble
Yeah.
in the first U.S. treble, because the only other treble won in the MLS is 2017 Toronto, who you could argue things about Canada in terms of how good their teams are when it comes to like their Open Cup, but the U.S. Open Cup is definitely harder to win than the Canadian Open Cup.
Oh,
It's more
absolutely.
rounds, more teams, more MLS teams you're facing. So
Yeah.
I don't think FC Cincinnati are going to let Messi just, oh, yeah, let's just give him the thing. They're going to make it hard for him.
Absolutely. John, I want to hit the last couple points here before we move on here. I really do think this is a good thing for American soccer in general. I think this will do what David Beckham did when I was a kid, which will bring me more interest. Well, I was a teen. What am I talking about? I'm not that young. It'll bring more eyeballs to the sport. And I really think if for whatever reason LouCity or Lexington can make a run in the Open Cup and make it to that round where they play a Florida-based team, so I mean, we literally would be talking about quarterfinals or so before that could happen. And Messi is still playing for Inter Miami. That could be very magical for Louisville or Lexington, just because they would potentially have that game here. That would
They
be amazing.
should. They should. In my opinion, this is across all of the world. In in the cup competitions, the lower league side should always get home field advantage. If you are a
Absolutely.
division, I don't care about the draw or whatever. It's been proven in soccer that home field advantage exists. So if a
Yep.
team is literally a league ahead of a team,
Yep.
give the other team
Home field advantage. Yep.
something where they could have make it at least a little even.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more there, John. But who knows if even the MLS is going to be in the Open Cup next year? Who knows, man? But
I
with
don't
that,
see them being
we'll
kicked out.
do what?
I don't see the MLS being taken out of the Open Cup
Well,
personally.
I don't know if they'll be taken out as much as them just voluntarily leaving.
I
Dan
that would
Garber
look
has been very, very vocal against the Open Cup.
and Dan Garber has been both great for the league and also what is dragging the league down. He got them to the point they are now, but it's time to cut ties and bring in someone else who knows like how to run a soccer league. Dan Garber stabilized the league financially. It made them be able to grow. Now you need how do you grow it in terms of soccer, not in terms of
Right.
an American sports league.
How do you get the next guy? How do you get Mbappe here? How do you get
How do you get
the
Mbappe here after he leaves Monaco?
yeah, like
How do you get
how
the
do you
young star coming? How do you get Erling Haaland to come from Dortmund
that was who I was
to
trying to think of.
MLS? How do you get those guys here? How do you get a
Yep.
Zlatan coming here before instead of going to Barcelona, he comes to Philadelphia Union in a sense type
But
thing? How do you get them from we're a retirement league to you're getting young guys or guys in their prime to come to the MLS?
right. But that's what hopefully the goat can do for the league and for the country. But I'll take my fan hat off and be a little bit more objective for the rest of the show. But now, John, let's go to the bottom line. And John, we're going to start in Louisville this time. LouCity has had two matches over last weekend. The first one that we'll dive into here was a 1-0 loss to the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. This was definitely a game that LouCity should have won. But again, we see the offensive struggles for LouCity rear its ugly head again, and they still only got one shot on target in that entire game. And I don't know what to make of their attacking effort and what they need to do to change it, but something's got to be different.
Their attack is either lacking chemistry or they need to completely reorganize it. Like you either need to figure out the chemistry with this team, or besides O and B, some of these you might have to just cut ties, use that
Yeah.
Winder money to bring in better players because it's just not working right now. You're second in the entire conference in goals, second lowest in goals scored. Like that's not LouCity.
Yeah.
That's not Danny Cruz ball, and it doesn't
No.
make sense. I don't understand what's happening. Granted, if you're a LouCity fan, you can make an argument that you should have had 2 penalties in that game. We mentioned
Yeah.
that in our write up. The handball, I don't understand how that was missed
I
at
don't
all.
either. It was clear and obvious.
I've not seen such a clear and obvious handball. It's not like it grazed his hand or that type of thing where you could like, well, did that? It straight up hit his hand
Yeah.
and
He
redirected.
might
Like
as
the
well have
ball went
punched
the
it out the
opposite
air.
way. Which I don't know how to say that guy's name. That player has also been like fined because he was he catfished people.
Yeah.
That defender. And funny enough, he's literally like hours before the game that gets let out, and he's makes 2 obvious penalty situations that don't get called. You could argue the 2 bodies together. I could see more that one not getting called than the handball.
Yep.
You could make a debate for that type of thing, but the handball should have been called. They should have at least gotten a penalty from that.
Absolutely.
That being said, you can't rely on the refs. You
Nope.
can't rely on penalties. You can't rely on any of that stuff. You have to make it work. You
Absolutely.
have to be the one getting shots on goal, forcing the keeper to make saves, forcing the guy to be worried.
Yeah.
I don't think a keeper is coming up against LouCity, even with Detroit even going to Detroit this Wednesday. I don't think they're that worried.
Nope.
Detroit's worried about their own goal scoring issues, but they're not worried. I don't think anyone's scared of LouCity's attack. They're scared of the keeper, and I'm worried about trying to get a goal past Salman because he's playing great, but they're not scared of the attack.
Yeah, and by the way, that game with Detroit, we will be live during that game, so I'm going to go ahead and throw my prediction out now. That game's got 0-0 draw written all over it.
That game's got 0-0 draw or
a 5-4.
it's literally either both teams like figure out their stuff against each other.
Yeah.
0-0 draw. Depends on the weather and that type of stuff. I could see literally it could be both teams could figure out their issues. It's a trap game.
Yep.
Is what it is for both sides.
Yep.
Both sides going into that Detroit or Lou they had to be this has to be the most prepared you go into a game of your life, because it's for Lou, you were in danger of maybe flirting with the bottom of the playoffs, depending on how the rest of the games go if you don't win that. Detroit's already not hopeful, but
yeah,
the worst part about bottom feeders, they don't care.
nope.
They're out of it, but that doesn't mean they'll let you be in it.
Yeah, they're going to take you out too.
Especially ones when they're rivals.
Yep. And I did want to, you mentioned it, but I want to make sure it was really emphasized. Their goalie, Oliver Smalley? Yeah.
They've said it reads Smalley, but I think they call it's like Smiley. Like it reads like it. They sound like they say like Smiley.
He did have a really good performance. He had some good saves. I think there was one about the 38th minute. He was named man of the match. But as a defense, you can't keep relying on him to save your butt all the time.
Great goalkeepers need a great team in front of them.
Yep.
Jordan Pickford is England's number one option. He plays for Everton, who's in a relegation battle all the time.
Yep.
It blows my mind to see Pickford with England versus Pickford with Everton.
Yeah.
And it's just insane. I was like, is this the same guy? But then I realized there's a difference in shots. There's a difference in just the balls that get passed. The D needs to step up, and they can at least start drawing games and getting points out of that, in a sense, where you could get 0-0, or you get that one goal you've been scoring every 2 games to win.
Well, and that is not what happened on Saturday, as LouCity hosted Mexican side Atlante. What?
Atlanta?
Yeah.
Atlante?
FC. And that game honestly went about how I expected. Now, I wrote that line when it was 2-0 LouCity in the negative. But 2 highlights from that match, right? The fan experience and everything they did before that game, I think, was really good for the community. It was good for the city. It was great to see so much celebration of Hispanic culture within Louisville. I think it was great. Also, the wrestling beforehand, I got to see a little bit of that, like a live stream of that. It was very funny because it was really that bad. But the other highlight was the quality goal by Cameron Lancaster. Like, I don't know if you can get
quality
goal of the year from a friendly that you lost, but wow,
that goal was insane.
40
That goal
yards out.
didn't make sense because it had the ultimate curve, because he shoots that from about the left side, 30 yards left, and it ends up hitting the right post.
Yep.
To bang in. It was an insane goal. And then he just like, if you watch the video after, he's just like, yep, I do that all the time.
Let's go. Let's get the ball back. Let's go tie this game.
Granted, they're down 2 goals, so Lancaster's very competitive. That's what I've noticed from him. He's a very competitive man. So even in a friendly, he's probably like, let's focus.
Yeah.
Now, the game, in my opinion, should have ended 1-1 then. This goal on the screen did not. That was a big mistake by what's it food? I don't know how to say his name.
But they didn't have their starting keeper in the match too. They did put in the backup, so Oliver wasn't in there.
Yeah, but if you look here, he make it off a back pass, and he just makes a
Yeah, bad
terrible
decision.
pass and then just gets beat.
Bing, light the lamp.
Like, it should have been 1-1,
Yep.
in my opinion. Granted, does Lancaster get this goal? It can all be debated, but it should. They were evenly matched, in my
And that
opinion.
guy was the
That
hero.
guy
That
is a
guy was the
legend.
hero.
That guy is a legend.
uh,
For those just listening, if you pull up the highlight after Lancaster's goal, they cut to some fan who got like real close to the video and is just like screaming. It's hilarious.
but it shows the passion that LouCity has for their team.
Yes.
John, kind of close out our segment here. Final thoughts on LouCity's performance overall last week.
In a friendly, I said this last week. Friendlies, in my opinion, they do not truly matter. LouCity brought in 11 academy players for this thing. They played a lot of youth. They played a lot of backups, which is what they should have done. I listened to the Center Forward podcast for my more Pacific LouCity focus, and they were like yelling that no starter should be playing. They were fearful of it because
Yeah.
they just injuries.
Yeah.
And I get it. And they did exactly that. So the outcome, well, it's bad. I wouldn't sulk over it. It's a friendly. It doesn't really matter. What did matter, and that's what LouCity did really good in terms. This is their front office or their community side. They nailed that. They
Absolutely.
nailed the community. They nailed the commemorative margaritas, the wrestling, the band.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was a dope thing. That's what most people should do.
Yep.
And they nailed it. And granted, there wasn't that many people there because there was kind of storms in the area type thing. But even then, they had a lot of people come out for even having storms in the area.
Yeah.
At the start or whatever. It was props to their community. I don't know what they call it at LouCity.
Community
but their
engagement, community development, probably something like that, right?
Whatever team that is, props to that group. They did a phenomenal job there.
Well, speaking of people that didn't do so well, John, I'm going to just turn this over to you here in just a second. But Lexington Sporting Club could not handle the Flames out at Central Valley Fuego over the weekend as they lost 2-1. And to me, it's a lack of chemistry and a lack of consistency, especially on the defensive end, that keeps doing this team in. Now, John, I'm just going to sit back and let you go because your article was well written, and I just want to give you the space, give you the floor.
Okay, so first, if you want a true tactical deep dive of Lexington's issues, check out USL1 Tactics on Twitter. He did a whole deep dive on them just yesterday night, and specific focus over the last 3 games where they haven't played well. The back line has the midfield and the back line aren't playing well together, and that's partially
They're not
because
communicating.
after Tormenta, it's been a serious shakeup. Over like 3 games, we've had 7 different backliners. There are 7 different people in our defensive back line. Now, we've had some great performances out of that. Fox and Green are not leaving that back line. They're best. Most goals, if you've noticed, is when Fox and Green get separated.
Yep.
It's because Green does help on the attack, and Fox is kind of by himself.
Yep.
Now, Martinez played really good against Charlotte. Tariq Mohammed's been back in that line. In my opinion, and I've posted this somewhere, it should be the back line needs to be Mohammed, Frankie Martinez, Fox, and Green. Murillo Jr. plays well. You could bring him on maybe as a defensive sub later in the game. But Martinez, and he played in against LouCity. He started against Charlotte. He has played really well. I don't know why he hasn't gotten as much time. Stockley, for some reason, doesn't really sub his defense out that much, especially his center backs, which, in my opinion, if your center backs are getting beat, you need to switch them out.
You need to do something about that. You can't just keep getting beat over and over again.
And our midfield just needs.
Oh, do we?
It's the same thing. Listen, personally, props to X, who won. He follows us.
He
Him and his dad
does.
follow us
I was
on
so
Twitter.
excited. I was like, holy crap. He just dominated us and
Props
now
to
he
X.
follows us.
Honestly, that goal I wasn't even that upset with because that kid just made a great play. He made a great goal, great run. That was a perfect chip pass. Like that. What made me mad was the header because that header should not have happened. He wasn't Jordan Chavez was not challenged at all in the box. The guy delivering the cross, I forget his name. It's in the write up. The guy delivering the cross was not challenged at all in the thing. But also props to Mitchell North of Fuego. He was peppered a lot during that game, and he
Yeah,
played really well.
he did.
Now, what I fully think our midfield needs to stop doing is they need to stop sending balls into the box just to send them into the box.
Nobody's
They're
there.
not. Yeah, they're. I love Balogun, but he needs to be a super sub. He is not a starter, in my opinion, right now. He doesn't have the footwork type thing. He scored more than Bainham, but Bainham just gives more of a solidification up top. I'm not really sure what it is, but Diouf needs to stay out there, and it needs to be Bainham in the front too. And I'm going to probably start in my write-ups including projected lineups for both teams that I'm previewing, just as a guess. Like I said, I'm not a tactical person. I'm trying to understand tactics a bit more, but this goal right here is showing on our screen. It's just everyone in the box is watching.
Yep.
Look, they're
Nobody's
just watching.
marking.
No one's going up to challenge
He was
him.
completely unmarked.
Mohammed, like Knight has been playing great, but he can't do it by himself.
Nope.
Somali can't
Nope.
do it by themselves. And we need to stop taking long shots. I don't understand is with Mohammed, with all these guys, we need to stop taking long shots.
To be
We need to
fair,
get
that
in the
one
box.
specifically was a good shot. Like it was
Oh no, that
going
was a good
under
shot
the
by Duke.
bar.
What I hated though was on Fox's shot that got saved. The announcer tried to make it seem like he had the whole goal for him, where he really had one touch and he had to go around the defender. He didn't have that much room. Also, I don't know what is in the announcer booth for Fuego, but whatever it is, they need to get better mic
You're talking about the
coverage or
fan?
something like that.
It sounded like a fan.
It sounded like a fan. I couldn't hear the whistle.
No. It was
Like there was
not a
like, oh,
good
and there's the
whistle.
ref's final whistle. I was like, huh? Either the ref's whistle sucked, or that is like the most further back booth I've ever seen.
And
Typically, you can hear the whistle on at least faintly on the thing. I couldn't hear nothing but like the fan. Granted, it was 105 degrees.
Yeah. At kickoff, it was 105, and by the time the game ended, it was 99. So, like, we'll give him a little bit of grace on that.
And
Like,
that
I'd have wanted a fan too.
And that could have been what did Lexington in.
Nah,
It was
I don't
that
want to hear
hot
that.
all week.
I don't want to hear that.
I'm not saying that's the sole reason they lost, because that's not. They weren't marking people, that type of thing. But that could be why they couldn't fully take advantage of a man advantage. They looked sluggish.
Yes.
They looked out of sorts the whole game.
Yep.
There was also a boatload of downtime. In the first half, there was a lot of players down. I don't know if that was heat related or truly because of collisions. There were collisions, that type of stuff. I don't know if that was heat related. I don't know what it is. Fresno was that hot all week, so I don't know if Fuego was just more prepared for that heat. I'm not one to fully do like Stadio Azteca, Colorado Rapids when they play high. People are like, well, it's thinner air. I'm like, that can give. I say that's the home field advantage of a slight amount. It's not enough for. Oh, we lost 1-0 because it was 105 degrees. Our guys just aren't. No, that's not it. But it took the players until that sun went down. Once the sun went down, Lexington all of a sudden could attack. So I don't know if the sun was beating down on them. It was just they're not used to it. That's not something you can replicate.
No.
You can't I don't care unless you put them in a sauna on a pitch. You can't replicate that type heat. And it could have been, but as I put in my write-up, I didn't really attest to that because there's certain stuff that you have to do as a backliner. You have to press people in your box. As wingbacks, you have to push the. Don't just let them dribble to set up crosses. And as a midfielder, you have to push. You have to connect the whole game. And I just didn't see it there. I don't know if that was just the way our midfield was set up in that game. When I have more time and I can not be in rant / podcast / whatever mode I'm in right now, you'll see it in my write up for Saturday's match. I'll set what my starters are. I'll give a brief explanation of why I think this is done. And I'll try to do it my best for the other team as well. Just know I've watched every single Lex game. I know this team. This team is very frustrating because, like LouCity, they are not playing to their talent. Their
Right.
talent is very much there. There's just something going on. And with Lex, I feel like it's their starting 11. The starting 11 doesn't have chemistry. It's just not connected. They can't play a full 90 because it's just there's not full chemistry. There's chemistry between certain players on certain sides, like um, Robertson and Brown are you typically on the same side. They usually have some chemistry, Green and that sort of stuff. There's chemistry there, but there's not chemistry among all the 11. And the same thing with LouCity. There's not chemistry among their attacking core, in my opinion. This chemistry is a huge, huge thing in soccer because that's why that Pep Guardiola, yeah, system works. Yes, because he gets world class players, but also because he makes those world class players work together, and they all work together.
Right.
Tiki Taka worked because everyone was in it. Everyone was in sync. Yes, they also had Iniesta, Messi, whoever you want to insert Hall of Fame, even though there's not really a thing in soccer, but Hall of Fame calibers player type thing in there. I'm not saying that's what Lex has, Hall of Fame caliber players, but the chemistry needs to be figured out. They need to find that starting 11 they had for that 4 unbeaten run type thing. Something you need to find something back, and it could be they just need a lucky break. They just need a win. That could just be what they need.
And I think that's what it comes down to. I think they just need to get a win, get something underneath their belt, which is what I thought they were going to do against Fuego, but
They
didn't
should
happen.
have done against Fuego. But also props to Fuego. They were on
Indeed.
a 5-game losing streak.
Yeah.
Like, yes, they're bad, but it's what the thing with soccer is. I was thinking it was a 2-1 win, but there was a part of my gut that was like, this is gonna be a draw. There was just something in my gut that I could see like a late equalizer. It was something, and I think this was just right. It was what my gut was saying. It's gonna be some sort of game where we should have won, but we didn't. They didn't win because whatever. And I'm not going to pretend to act like an expert if I know exactly what's going on there. Also, Muhammad got 2 yellows and somehow was still on the game later. So I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, I don't know either. That was weird, right? Like how did the ref not catch that?
I think it wasn't actually a yellow to Muhammad the second time. I think that was just the
That's what even the
broadcast.
announcer said. Yeah.
I think that was the broadcast might have been a little confused type thing. Maybe that's my only guess because the ref keeps track of them in their book. He can obviously, when he pulled out that yellow, went to right. Oh, he would send him off. So I think that second yellow wasn't for Muhammad. It was just confusion type thing, which happens.
Yeah. Well, we will wrap it up here now. John, any final thoughts on Lexington, Louisville, or anything else that we talked about today?
In my opinion, the NWSL should not be playing during the Women's World Cup. I can cover that more on Wednesday.
Exactly.
I'll be if you guys want to chat with me in person, I'll be at the Lex game, pop and smoke as I usually do. on Saturday. But also, you can feel free if you're watching this. My Twitter is literally in my little name bracket type thing. Uh, Feel free to always DM me if you want to talk. If you want to chat about my stories, I don't care. I'm open to hearing your type of thoughts. I don't pretend to be an expert. I am just a talking head. It's really all I am. I'm a talking head in my living room with my cat staring at me weirdly.
Well, and I'm another talking head, and you can actually find both of us on our new Discord that we launched today. So if you go to our Twitter, our Instagram, our threads, you will see that we have a link to our brand new Discord server. So make sure that you get signed up for that. We have a lot of content that we're going to be putting efforts into onto that platform to make sure that we continue to grow and engage with you all. And it's been a great journey so far, and I'm really excited to see kind of where it goes from here. But that'll wrap it up for today's show. I want to thank you all for joining us for another episode. Please make sure to follow us on all our social medias, like I already mentioned: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads. All of those handles are BG Soccercast. Make sure to give us a listen on all your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple, Google, YouTube, and so many more. We'd also appreciate it if you give us a subscribe, a follow, a like, all of those kind of fun things just to help us grow this community. But I'm Jimmy, that's John, and we will see you on the next one.